afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram and Ken Shreve here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, Wednesday, September 25th, where it was a mixed day. The NASDAQ managed to eke out a gain, but blue chips and small caps lagged today. Ken, as always, a lot to get to.
Definitely lots of large cap tech leadership, even though the NASDAQ didn't move too much. So let's start by taking a look at Meta Platforms that had their Meta Connect 2024 event today. Also want to take a look at ARM Holdings in the semiconductor sector and finish up with KB Home, which reported, not so great earnings, but overall, I got to say the stocks in the home building group held up relatively well.
Okay, we'll take a look at those stocks. But first, let's analyze the major indexes, kicking things off with a look at small caps since they lagged today. The Russell 2000 closing down almost 1.2% on the day, followed by the Dow. Blue chips off 0.7% on the day after a 4-day winning streak, now back below 42,000 a little bit. The S&P 500 also with a down day here, down at 0.2%, but holding right at recent highs, Ken. And as mentioned, the NASDAQ with a fractional gain on the day, still sitting above that recently retaken 18,000 level.
Yeah, very light volume in the market today. But like I said, it was interesting. The Nasdaq really didn't move much today. But when you look at the Nasdaq 100, you had so many really strong performers: Advanced Micro Devices, Nvidia, ARM that we're going to talk about, Intel, Meta. So lots of large cap tech leadership today. But breadth was negative all day on the NASDAQ, even when it was up a little more than where it closed. I think we ended about 2-to-1 negative on the NASDAQ and probably a little more than 2-to-1 negative on the NYSE. So breadth not great today. And like we said, selling seemed to be concentrated in blue chips and small caps.
Yeah, so let's go to the Russell 2000. Your thoughts on today's decline?
Yeah, just kind of coming into some key support levels here. Looks like it came down to the 10-day moving average and right at that 2200 level. So it closed just below it. Usually these round numbers can offer support. So a little bit of a close below 2200, but not a broken index at this point. You have to remember the Russell 2000 was up for several days in a row, 6 or 7 days up, and now it's just kind of pulling back and digesting those gains. So if it can kind of hold around the 2200 level here, I think we're still looking okay.
Okay, and let's give the audience an update on the S&P 500 Power Trend Watch.
Well, it is just holding near highs here and just acting very, very well. I always go back to that real heavy volume day on Friday where the S&P 500 really didn't move much. It fell but closed all the way up near its session high. So even though it looked like a lot of institutional selling on Friday, it was a good close for the S&P 500, and it's just kind of holding firm near highs here. And it's definitely the leading index at this point, along with the Dow Jones.
Yeah. And in terms of the power trend, we have just one more condition we need to meet. We need to have an up day, and for the low of that day to be above the 21-day line, then the power trend will officially resume. Past power trends, you might wonder, well, look at these trending markets from May and June, and then also from November to March. Those were two power trend markets. Not trying to predict the future, but when you have the moving averages stacked and rising and the low above your 21-day line, you can have some periods where you get these trending markets. So we'll have to see if that last condition can be met. And then in terms of the power trend for the NASDAQ, for this, we need the 50-day in an uptrend. Right now, it is still slanting lower, but one could imagine over the next couple of days or weeks, we can get that 50-day in an uptrend here as well.
We do have a nice looks like a nice earnings report from Micron after the close. We'll see if that fuels a tech rally tomorrow. Obviously, a lot of bad news priced into Micron ahead of the results, but you can see the stock up about 10%. Looks like it's going to run right into its 200-day moving average. We'll see where it opens tomorrow, but a pretty good response to earnings so far.
Yeah, and to your point, maybe less so about this, what this means for Micron, and more about, hey, can this spark a rally in tech stocks and in the chip sector? Sometimes it can be viewed a little bit as one of the bellwethers out there.
It's a major player in artificial intelligence up there with Broadcom and Nvidia. So this is Micron is obviously known for their memory products, but a very big player in the AI space. And I believe their revenue guidance for the current quarter. They were forecasting record revenue. So I'll tell you what, this would be quite an accomplishment for Micron if it can, gap above that 200-day moving average. Usually when you get a big decline like this, there's a lot of overhead supply to work through, but at least in after hours, seems to be pretty strong buying demand.
It does. Okay, we'll have to keep tabs on it tomorrow, no doubt. And then one more ticker we wanted to take a look at before our three stocks is XHB. This is the home builder ETF. We're going to take a look at KBH here soon, but your thoughts on the decline today? This is one area over the last 2 weeks, Ken, that's been looking pretty solid.
Yeah, and you can see XHB really, powered higher above that 120 level, and now it's just been biding time. We'll look at KB Home in just a second, but yeah, it was a pretty good earnings selling in KB Home. Overall, the group again, XHB down 1.5% might look bad on the surface, but it really is just a test of the 10-day moving average here. So a lot of home builders, including this ETF, still on nice uptrends here, and was a little surprised that the selling in KB Home didn't spread. More throughout the group. I think it's just a sign or a tell by the market that home builders still look pretty strong here.
Right. Okay. Let's now take a look at Meta in the headlines today with its 2-day conference. First day was today, Ken. The stock up about 9/10 of a percent on the day. It's been on the move over the last 2 weeks, clearing a trend line, getting above a more traditional buy point and extending gains. So, first, your thoughts on the newsy element here with Meta and their conference.
Yeah, a lot of a new virtual reality headset, a cheaper one that's going to be priced either $300 or $400, so maybe a little more palatable than the first VR headset that they came out with that was quite pricey. Also, augmented reality glasses and updates to several AI tools. Now, Meta, late in the session, it was up near its session high, so it looks like maybe the stock sold the news a little bit, but this was a really strong breakout recently for Meta Platforms. It's a leaderboard stock. Just really like the fundamentals here, and Mark Zuckerberg as a CEO. So yeah, lots of good headlines out of Meta Connect today, and the stock was near highs for most of the session and gave back some of those gains. But again, one of several large cap tech stocks that had pretty good days today.
Okay. In terms of it being actionable at these levels, Ken, what are your thoughts on that? Is it too late to be initiating a position here? Is this more an ad opportunity? What are your thoughts?
Well, we go back to the daily chart here because at last check it was kind of floating near the top of the buy zone, either from that 544 pivot. So it's probably at a point where could be ready to take a little breather. I mean, again, it was a pretty big run from 495 up to where it closed today to 568. So like to watch this one pull back into the buy zone and get maybe a little closer to that 544. 23 pivot, just kind of pull back into that blue shaded area. Maybe it does it in light volume. I think that would probably be a better opportunity. But Meta, again, large cap techs really outperformed today, and even though Meta gave back some of those gains, it's still showing a lot of relative strength here.
It sure is. Okay, elsewhere in the tech sector, let's check out ARM Holdings. This is in the same industry group as NVIDIA and AMD, up 2.2% on the day. Looks like it bumped its head right up against a round number at 150. That is the cup with handle buy point here, Ken. But this looks like a stock on breakout watch.
Yeah, it's in a kind of a similar setup to Taiwan Semiconductor TSM that recently broke out and followed through a little bit today. So kind of a similar setup here. It's really just trying to break out from this base, holding above its 50-day moving average. This is a very unique chip company. They make a lot of money on licensing. They license their chip designs to companies like NVIDIA, Apple, AMD, and then these companies sort of customize their own customize the chips based on these ARM designs, and then when they start selling the chips, ARM gets a royalty on these chip sales. So fundamentals are very very strong here. I look at this as just as a high quality company like an NVIDIA, like a TSM. Obviously, it's not up near highs like NVIDIA is, but still a company that's very well positioned for growth. And again, just huge customers, just like TSM has counts all the big mega caps as customers. So does ARM Holdings, and a little bit off highs here. But if this Nasdaq can get going and we get that bona fide breakout over the 18,000 level, we see if ARM can take flight over 150 here.
Yeah, and not the prettiest base we've ever seen. The depth here, 49%, but at least the handle, a 9% depth. So definitely much tighter in comparison to the overall depth of the base.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at pullbacks from high to lows, and we see a stock correct, that 49% is a little steep. It's been a nice rally back, but it's still working its way higher. I think it's a good point that you made just about the recent action. Rallied off lows from that 114, 115 low, and just kind of holding above the 50-day line here. So again, if the Nasdaq can start to show some renewed signs of accumulation, that's not entirely clear yet, but if we can get some heavy volume behind some Nasdaq up days, I'd expect this one has a good chance of breaking out here.
Okay, and let's now go to KBH after looking at the home builder ETF earlier. Here's a look at one of the names driving the action today. But as you said, Ken, not too widespread the weakness here in sympathy with KBH, down 5.4% on the day after a recent breakout. But we did get some support at a key level.
Yeah, and this stock was actually trading up near its high all day. So it was really, it gapped down, but immediately held support at the 50-day moving average. Now it did close near its session low. Looks like a little bit of sellers came in late here. But again, when you get an earnings report, and the earnings weren't bad here. You can see that 10% revenue growth was above expectations. I think a couple of things. Their new orders were flat year over year, and when you're a home builder sitting near highs, the market's going to want to see, better than flat orders. Their gross margin was also down year over year. So a couple of things to pick apart in the earnings report. But again, we looked at XHB earlier, Pulte Group, PHM on leaderboard. A lot of these stocks really behaved quite well. PHM, I think, even held support at its 10-day moving average. So uptrends still look good here for the home builders.
Hmm. And I'm trying to remember, I think Lennar reported last week, correct? And this stock also came off after its earnings report.
Yeah, but it's not testing the 50-day like KBH. It could try to come down and test that 50-day line, but trading near the 21-day moving average. Usually if you get a weak earnings report in a group, it can spill over and weigh on other members. But overall, I would say home builders held up pretty well today in light of a not so great report from KB Home.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Ken. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. That is it from us for today, but we'll be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live. And we hope everyone joins us, investors.com/IBD Live for all those details there, starting 10 minutes before the opening bell. running through the first 90 plus minutes of trade, getting the team's latest thoughts on market action, stocks to watch, portfolio management tips, and so much more. So we'll see you there, everyone. And then we'll also see you right back here tomorrow after the close.